from The Independent. Virginia Giuffre's dad insists she didn't die by suicide and claims someone got to her. She also had that viral post from a few years ago. It was 5 years ago, where she said, "I am not suicidal." I don't think she killed herself. You're a rational feller. What do you think happened?
I'm not sure. I don't know too much about the story. It is possible that she did kill herself, but it is really weird that everybody involved in this situation, despite proclaiming that they're not suicidal, seems to just happen to go at a convenience.
I'll take the contrarian take here. Virginia unfortunately suffered a very tough life. When she was a young woman, she was taken advantage of by a billionaire. And I hate to use the word candidate. I mean, I think you go over what happened throughout her life. I think she'd be a prime candidate from somebody who suffered through so much mental anguish. And then the publicity following this. And then she also, unfortunately, in addition to the correct accusations she made a lot of false accusations that she eventually ended up rescinding, which put a ton of public pressure on her, and it diminished her ability against Alan Dershowitz, that she actually ended up rescinding. She said that Alan Dershowitz was involved in her sexual assaults, which he wasn't, and she ended up rescinding.
How do you know he wasn't?
She said she rescinded it.
She sure did.
And they both did. So... So there's a lot of pressure that goes
dead.
into being a survivor. Well, she rescinded them before her death. And you never know exactly for sure, but I feel like considering a lot of these factors, it wouldn't be the craziest thing for her to be crushed under so much stress and pressure, considering her life was filled with these horrible acts that were done to her as a child, and now forever being connected to conspiracy and issues with this trial moving forward.
I don't mean to be like graphic, but what was the alleged method, if anybody knows? Because women tend to use specific methods.
I don't
pills.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
So that might go into my calculations on whether or not I buy this. But the father, to be fair to your point, the father probably doesn't want this to be true, because when something like this happens, people around you feel like they missed the sign. So this is like an easier explanation for him.
Like, a sexual assault survivor, a ton of conspiracy surrounding them. I'm sure she's harassed regularly by people on both ends, and there's a ton of conspiracy again surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and obviously a lot of actual true fact there. And
I mean, his death is also a conspiracy, like a fodder for conspiracy theory. So, I mean, it's suspicious. I'll just say that. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know about that.
How she died has not been disclosed, but there was also that viral post she made a couple weeks before where she was like, "The doctors tell me I have 4 days to live. I just want to see my kids one last time," which is not something you say.
Right.
If you're dying in the hospital, you just bring your kids. So it was a very weird statement. And at that time, a lot of people thought it sounded like she was being threatened with death. That the car that hit her was trying to kill her, and she survived, and they're coming for her. And she was basically putting out that message to publicly beg her assassins just to let her see her kids. The bus driver that hit her said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. It was a fender bender. It was a minor bump. It broke the taillight. That's all it did. The car didn't go flying. Nothing."
For conspiracy's sake, it did take a long time for her to commit suicide, right? If they could have offed her
we actually don't know
a lot
that.
sooner.
We don't know that.
Well,
all we know is that there was a report of an unresponsive person. Look, it's tragic. Okay, if someone takes their own life and they live alone, could be weeks until the mailman comes, until someone says they were supposed to call me 3 days ago, they never did. I'm going to go knock a wellness check because someone says I can't get a hold of somebody. Cops knock on the door, nobody answers. They leave. But eventually, someone says we got a missing persons. They go in. Dead.
For convenience sake, it would have been convenient for Epstein to have had her be gone sooner, a lot sooner, obviously.
Considering that Pam Bondi says that she's got 10,000 new documents and videos, and they're about to release them, I think it is extremely suspicious that now Virginia Giuffre ends her own life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like the timeline of when this was a story, when you're talking about, is not the updates, because it was kind of buried after Epstein's like suspicious death. So that was gone. But then we have the Trump administration saying that they're going to release it doing that weird like paper document release. But my point is it's coming back up, which honestly could support both theories. Maybe all this is in the news, so she's getting more harassment, or maybe somebody's afraid that stuff is going to be released, and then all of a sudden her testimony becomes more valuable. With this particular case, and I'm somebody who tries to fight against my urge to conspiracy theorize. I think guilty for these people until proven innocent is the standard, because they've lied so much about everything surrounding this. Like, I'm going to need hard evidence to support their theory that this was a suicide.
Mossad's not paying me enough. I can't spin hard enough here. We can move on. Yep. Not a suicide. Okay. Yeah.
I would throw my lot in with not a suicide as well. So.
Yeah. I think she knew a lot more than she let out in just that one statement. I think it is highly improbable that the only person she interacted with was Andrew. And I think one of the only reasons we know about Andrew is because those photos get released.
Yep.
You had one defamation suit with information. As we know, she did make accusations you mentioned against Dershowitz. She recanted those. I don't care. Dershowitz is, what was he? He was a Clinton lawyer, wasn't he?
Yep.
And now all of a sudden he's MAGA and he's coming around and he's saying, actually. So I say investigate each and every one of these people. And I'll tell you what, Donald Trump too. I don't give anybody a special pass. I know the stories about why Trump and his family flew on the Epstein jet. A lot of people did. RFK did. Okay. I'm concerned about who actually flew to the island. So we'll do a big investigation. We'll figure out who went to the island. I don't care if it's Trump, RFK Jr., or Bill Clinton, who I'm pretty sure did. We want that list of names because we know who went to the island likely was involved in some, just child abuse.
I think no matter, yes, we should get more information. And I thought it was actually really weird that the administration invited a dozen some odd influencers to give them these binders that, reissued the same.
You know the story? There's two stories. Both stories start as this. There was an influencer meeting at the White House. They were brought to talk with J.D. Vance. That was it. And then abruptly, it was like Pam Bondi's team came in and said, here's the first piece of the Epstein files. Now the story splits into two. One was they intentionally scuttled them out the door where the press was to make a big moment. The other story is they were moving the people quickly out of the Rose Garden exit, and didn't realize the press was going to make a big stink about it. I actually believe that it was an accident more so based on what I've heard, because Pam Bondi, here's what I think happened. She went on Hannity. She talked smack. I seen the Epstein documents. Oh, yeah, it's bad. Everybody heard her say that and said, okay, release them. And she went, oh, crap, because she didn't have them. So then she was like, I'll give them to some influencers. Then they get shuffled out the door in front of the press. The story goes 10 times bigger, and she goes, crap, now it's bigger, and I don't have anything. So I think it was an accident. And now, we'll see what happens. But anyway,
I don't think there's any amount of documents about this case that Pam Bondi can release that would satisfy some conspiracy-minded people around this, unless it's, whatever she releases, people will demand videos of their political enemies doing the worst things imaginable on camera, and Mossad being involved and orchestrating all this. Well, unless that comes out word for word, then nobody will be satisfied with no matter what will come out of this investigation.
As long as what the people previously, currently believe is confirmed in there, then they'll believe it. But that's part of the problem with this stuff. None of this, you're right, none of this will solve anything. No one's going to see whatever comes out and say, oh, well, man, I thought one thing and now I don't. That is not going to happen at all.
You need to have the person that is in their mind, like you're saying, that has to be there. So if there's no Bill Clinton, everybody's going to be like, it's a cover-up for the Clintons.
Yeah.
And if there's no Donald Trump, exactly.
Yeah, it's a cover-up for the Trumps. But I just hope Pam Bondi discovers a PDF if she wants to release the next batch of documents. I would really appreciate that. I have a bad feeling that paper is going to be followed up with little JVC tapes. So you're going to have to take those home, plug them up into those little video cameras.
8 tracks.
Yeah, hook it up to the TV, and that's how you're gonna have to view it.
I guess my biggest
there are more efficient ways to release this.
She's gonna release one single film reel spool, and just there you go. That's the information. Every document, each document is a single frame, and the videos are all in that roll of film.
And it's gonna have to be that old film that has that silver nitrates in it, so it's super flammable. So you need a 100-year-old projector.
As she hands it to someone, she's handing it off just as they're installing a new window, which lines up with the sun, and then just bursts into flames. Oh, geez, oh no, that was her only copy.
She gives it to the Gen Z conservative influencer. She's like, you know what to do with this. They're like, I don't even know what a DVD is. What do you mean I know what to do with this?
So I just want to have one last point here. Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and associates' crimes are obviously horrific and unspeakably evil, and I don't want to diminish that at all, but I think one of the issues I have here is that I feel as though most people know more about this Jeffrey Epstein stuff than a lot of tangible politics that could affect more of their life, or electoral stuff that could affect more of their life. So, like, for example, right now in Georgia, there are 2 Democrat senators that could probably both be Republican. And Brian Kemp, the most popular Republican in Georgia, decided not to run for a seat that he would almost for sure be able to win. So, like, instead of focusing on, like, some important, tangible politics that could affect, like, a close Senate that's, like, 50-50, I think Republicans actually have a couple of seat edge. It's like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein stuff getting rehashed every single night. And I feel like we're missing on it's an important story again. And I don't want to diminish it, but I don't want you to become, so-called Epstein pilled in the head where you're missing any other bigger.
What do you think people in chat are saying about you?
I don't care because
Assad.
I don't mind, but I'm not led by the chat. I think audience capture is probably the worst thing. I'm an anti-populist.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.